for example, if you have your fiance here, I would just probably represent you guys, say, hey, this couple, right?
Sure.
I'm not gonna say this queer couple.
Right. See,
right?
that's the thing too, where it's like you can almost like overdo the allyship by being like, they're so gay and LGBTQ.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Be Frank Podcast. Today's episode, we're gonna talk about thrifting. I don't know much about it, and also we're gonna dive into LGBTQ community topics today. So if you guys are interested in that topic, so then this episode might be good for you. And then we wanted to welcome special guest Brynlee.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. So I start this podcast every time I ask people that, you know, if you're making your a personal website, what your bio would say.
Ooh, that's a good one. How long should it be in this
It could be short, it's long, whatever,
okay.
You know.
Oh, I love the phrase "be intentional." I think that RuPaul has a quote that says, "Know who you are and deliver it at all times." And I love that, being intentional with everything that you do and not letting life, slip you by with just half-assed choices, I guess.
that'd be a good bio for Instagram. I was thinking about a bio would be where you grew up, what you do,
Totally.
You know, that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Totally. That makes way more sense, honestly. Okay, yeah, that kind of bio, I would say I am Brynlee Handy. I am from small town Oklahoma. I live in OKC now, and I feel like I focus on online social media posts and thrifting content, LGBTQIA plus content, and definitely stuff relating to mental health. So this is awesome.
That's awesome. So thrifting content, right?
Yes.
So can you kind of tell me what is the thrifting content on the thrifting?
Yeah. So I love posting thrift hauls of things that I have found. And then I love posting my top favorite thrift stores and stuff like that. Love a good Goodwill find or haul video. I think those are so fun. Shoot.
So your jacket is from thrift store, right?
Yes, of course.
It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. It's one of my good friends' finds, and I just love the thrift store opportunities.
How did you get into that?
So growing up in southern Oklahoma in a small town, there was really not any cool places to shop at all. And so I felt most of the cool stuff that I found typically came from garage sales or estate sales, which I didn't find much of in my hometown, but kind of the surrounding areas. And that was the way that I had access to designer fashion. I think I found my very first fake Louis Vuitton purse at a garage sale, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think my life is about to change.
Yeah.
And just kind of keeping that same mentality growing up has always made fashion and high fashion so much more accessible to me.
Man, I can see that would cost if you told me that if it's $500 jacket.
Right.
Yeah.
The back, I don't know if you saw the back before. So cool and
nice.
Just like a racer jacket almost, but I love it.
So what do you think I guess I'm wearing oversized shirt right now
love
too,
it.
But it's kind of I don't know why. Do you remember everything was needs to be fit before, and then now it's kind of everything needs to be oversized?
Yes.
Why what's a trend, do you think?
I feel trend cycles are so interesting to talk about because they change so fast right now, and I feel the internet definitely speeds that up. We have access to everything all the time.
Yeah.
But I love seeing little pops of so I feel 90s was very baggy and stuff, and then there's people that are starting to bring Y2K back, which is low rise skinny jeans, almost no clothing, and of the balance between those two is so fun.
So do you think that a trend is gonna be bigger, like oversized. It's like a pants is getting bigger too, right?
Yes.
So like, is that for like a man and woman and everybody? That like, do you think it's gonna keep continually like a bigger?
Bigger and bigger. I feel like surely it has to stop at some point.
Right.
But I pray we don't ever go back to skinny jeans, because that is just like territory I do not need to re-enter ever, ever.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because like honestly, whenever I came to United States for the first time, I was 17.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I remember that I had brown hair. I had I had like a little curly, like a hairstyle, and like a long, and I had a man satchel. And I went to I was an exchange student in a very very small town of Oklahoma. I graduated with the 4 people. Yeah, so it was like you can imagine.
You beat me on the small town. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I went there, and then I had the like a man purse, right? And then everybody was talking to me about like, oh, that's like a gay thing and all that kind of stuff. And then now, 10 years later, maybe like 8 years later, like everybody's wearing it.
Yes.
And then like it's crazy because like, well, I brought that fashion. Not that I didn't bring it, but like
you did.
but like Japan, like it was like everybody
Totally.
was wearing it. So like I thought that was interesting, but like like being high fashion, like I don't know, like you grew up in this small town, right?
Totally.
Like were you always like a high fashion person?
I tried at times to kind of like basic myself into like fitting in, but I loved like dressing up and always being like the most dressed up person in the room. Like at different ages, that definitely meant different things for me, because obviously I did not always have the best taste. But I definitely have always had that like need to be extra in terms of fashion, I think. So it's definitely not a new thing for sure.
When did you like get into like, okay, like I have a sense of fashion, you know what I mean?
I thought I had a sense of fashion probably my last year in college, like
Yeah.
2018, and that was horribly wrong. I was so wrong. But I think I'm really just now, like in the last year or so, kind of stepping into what I feel like is my actual sense of fashion, and not just like influenced solely by like trends and things around me,
Yeah.
and just like what I think should be fashionable.
That is very interesting to me because like fashion always like I like it because I kind of like trend stuff, but like honestly like my mom kind of always taught me like, hey, when you're walking around, like you look at a people and then you like what you don't like, but also like look at like magazines and what's going on. And but right now it's like a social media going on, and then you're getting influenced by it, but there is so many trend, but there is a certain aspect of like classy, like a timeless things. And then like a lot of people have a style, but like create your own style, right? Like but like be trendy. I don't know, like what's the best?
It's a balance.
It's so many things.
Yeah, like I think you can always like incorporate elements of a trend into your style. Like I feel like you were saying before, like the oversized stuff is super trendy, and I feel like I've never actually seen a jacket exactly like this, but I have seen a lot of like almost like NASCAR sports, like racing style jackets. And I feel like that is like straight up or not like right now, but a trend, versus like, I feel like this is kind of like influenced by the trend, but I found this at a thrift store. So it wasn't like an Amazon find that 30,000 other girls are also going to be walking around wearing. So
is that a kind of like a part of the thrifting makes it important, like fun?
Totally.
Just like a one piece
feeling, you know that you may never find something like that again, and maybe no one else will either. It's like, is it like worth $1 million? Maybe not, but is it 1 in a million?
Yeah. What do you think about those like a designer brands? Like, do you wear those or?
I feel like some I do. I'm kind of a little bit obsessive about some, and like fangirl over like long time high fashion designers like Prada and Dior and Chanel and stuff like that. But I feel like that stems a little bit more for my love of like runway and like that culture in general versus like the actual products that they make. Because I feel like I'm not as obsessed with like wearing them, or I mean, obviously if I could, that would be great, but like you know, I'm not like out here trying to collect these things or anything, but I feel like I'm definitely influenced by the like fashion that they put out and that they kind of like set as a almost a standard for the pedestrian people here.
So do you go to like a thrift store, like a different thrift store all the time, or like you like do you recommend like, oh, this thrift store is good, so you just go there all the time?
I feel like I have some absolute favorites, and I'm always trying to find new ones, of course, because I feel like when you can find the tiny ones, those are the ones you're going to find the gems in because they're not like picked over or like super convenient to shop at sometimes. Like you have to dig a little bit for what you're looking for, and it's like I put in the elbow grease for finding this. But I definitely love a good Goodwill moment. That is not sponsored, but I love any Goodwill location. I feel like they're always so like well organized and stuff, and it's really easy to like, if you're not familiar with thrifting, it's super easy to come in there and not be like out of your element or out of your realm and just like peruse things in a semi-organized manner. So I feel like you can never go wrong with Goodwill, and they're the easiest to find probably.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I should bring this up, but like, but you know, Goodwill, right? Like, I do have like certain different opinion about it because of I think I was taking like a college course or whatever, and then it was about the nonprofit.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you know about it, but like a Goodwill, like executives make shitload of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they use employees as like a very like sometimes people who are like disabled people, and then some location, not all location of Goodwill do this, but some locations only pay them like $1 or like a less than minimum wage. So like whenever like I feel like donating to Goodwill, sometimes I feel good about it before I knew about that topic, and then now like whenever I go to Goodwill, well, maybe I should go to whenever what I did for that college course was I went to like church and donate and stuff.
Sure.
But also like went to Plato's Closet.
Yes.
And they actually sold it, you know.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I think I made like $18 or something for a bunch of suitcases. But what do you think about that? Like going, like I know you like thrift store, and it seems like you like Goodwill, but
I like shopping there. I think donation wise, it's definitely like I've toured their headquarters and stuff, and I've seen like how much goes to waste afterward. And it's not like necessarily their fault that it goes to waste, because they have like the Goodwill outlet, which is like the bins. And then that's where when things don't sell at the store, they go to the bins, and then they're sold by the pound, and it's like so cheap. A little scary because you literally have to dig through bins of random stuff. But even after that, there's like hundreds and thousands of pounds of clothes that are like completely like going to be disposed of.
Yeah.
And I feel like if that is the case, donation wise, take it to like a homeless shelter or like a women's shelter or something like that, or like somewhere where you know they're definitely going to use it all, because I feel like Goodwill does not need more donations. Like they get plenty, and that's such an easy, like if nowhere else will take it, then Goodwill, great. But I feel like that is never really my first like I'm going to donate it here, but they make thrifting shopping wise super convenient. So
yeah, and then I heard that like textile, like that the waste of the clothing is like I think the worst for the earth or whatever environment. So yeah, I think that people keep thrifting or like those kind of stuff for save the money, right?
Fingers crossed. We're really trying. I don't know if anything will truly save it at this point, but I'm like, we'll at least slow it down. Like,
Yeah,
hopefully.
it's been super hot. Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, and then like so, you say you growing up in a small town,
Mhm.
and then you what? How can I put it? Like you came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually dated men my entire life until being with my partner now, which was really interesting because looking back, I thought I was like just doing my best, which I was, but it was definitely like a protective measure, I guess, because there was no way I could be out in my hometown. Like, I don't think it would have really, like, it would have completely ostracized me. And I already had my, like, head set on being, like, the perfect straight A, you know, I'm gonna get into a great college, that type of girl. And so I was like, no, I'm not gonna throw all this away, which this was never like a conscious thought, but I think my psyche was like, this is not something we're gonna sacrifice for
Because if you come
something.
out,
Yeah, I just felt like it was, I mean, it's such a small community, and I'm sure you know exactly what that's like, but it's like everyone talks about everyone. Everyone knows exactly what everyone's doing.
yeah,
If, you know, heaven forbid that you do something that made you happy, it's like you're going to be run through the mud for it for absolutely no reason than the fact that they are miserable and have
yeah.
nothing better to talk about. So,
So like whenever you're dating men,
mm-hmm.
like did you know?
I didn't for a really long time. I dated men all through like high school, college. Towards the end of college, I was in a long-term relationship and I came out as bisexual at the time. And I was like, hey, like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I like girls. And he was like, I wish you hadn't told me that, actually. Please
Really?
keep that completely to yourself. And so I kind of like stuffed it down, pushed it far away in my mind. And then, like 6 or so months later, we ended up breaking up. And I was like, you know what? This is not something that I can just continue ignoring. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try. I'll get on Tinder. I'll like swipe on a few girls, call it a day. But I was still like only trying to like meet up with guys. And then after I had really like fully processed that like thought and knew that I should be hanging out with girls too, but I was still too scared and I couldn't. I had a few interactions with guys where I literally, TMI, vomited in my mouth and was like, I have to leave. Like, this is not going well.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time that it was anxiety, which it definitely played into that. Like, I was super anxious about everything, I'm sure. But after like the third or fourth time, when it was like people that I had no like real repulsion to or anything like that, I was like, okay, it's too late for me. I need to date a woman. I need to give it a try because I fear this might be my future. And I had been slow playing my now fiance. I had swiped on her like first thing and I was like, you're so beautiful, let's kiss. And then I was like, actually, I'm not gonna hang out with you. I'm terrified. And I would cry, I think. I came back around and I was like, hey, you like still want to hang out? And she was like, it's been 6 months. And I was like, but do you want to hang out? And she said yes. And so we literally pretty much never stopped hanging out since then. So
That's awesome.
it's great.
Yeah.
It just kind of worked itself out. But
So like whenever you came out like hey, I'm bisexual, whatever at the time, like what what made you, how can I ask? I don't know.
yeah,
Like I don't want to
no,
ask the
don't worry
wrong
about
question.
offending me at all.
Okay.
I don't know if it's hard to like worry about that or just like verbiage, but
So like how did you know you were you are no, you were, right?
Yeah, sure. So I think I had always I always knew deep down there was like a few experiences through the like watching a movie where I was like, that girl is so pretty or whatever, and I was like, but I think everyone thinks girls are pretty, so
Yeah.
that's fine. Stuff like that it kind of all started adding up, and then I had two really close friends in college who we all had like the same major. We lived in the same apartment building. We were like constantly hanging out all the time. And we all kind of like started coming to the same conclusions because I think once we started getting the confidence to verbalize some of like the silly little things we thought were pretty normal over the years, we were like, wait a minute, I think we all actually like girls. Like, I think we're all a little fruity, which was so funny. And it was fun to like discover that with them, like experience that, because I think otherwise would have been a lot scarier. And I was able to kind of like have really good support and friends during all of that. And like, I went to OU, so all of my like professors and classes were super like diversified and very like, you know, they're doing what they need to do. But there was always that fear of just like the small town thing and like never wanting to disappoint your parents, which my parents are great now. Like, it's funny the things that we kind of like build up in our head and think like are going to be a much bigger deal than they end up being.
Yeah.
But it all just kind of like works itself out.
Yeah.
I feel like I say that too much, but it
You
does.
just told parents, and parents were supportive.
They definitely took a second to be like, okay, this is like new information. I had to tell them a little bit faster than I thought I was like actually ready to, because when I told my long-term partner at the time and it didn't go well, I literally needed so much support and didn't know who else to go to, because he was like, his parents found out and then they were telling him to tell me that like that can't be the case. Like, I need to like forget that. And like, I don't know, like
That can't be the case.
yeah, yes. And then he was telling me like, you need to sit down with my parents and tell them that like you don't like girls, that is not something you're really ever going to think about again, and that like there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to. I mean, we were 2 years in, so we were talking about marriage, and he was like, tell them they don't have to worry about you being like essentially like loyal in a marriage. And I was like, okay, but at the time when I really thought that I loved him, I was like, that shouldn't affect, it's just like a level of commitment. You could make that to anyone, and it doesn't matter. Like, straight people can cheat too. So I'm like, what is the problem here? But I think I was just trying to make myself too digestible and kind of watered down to be acceptable, even though it wasn't acceptable even in that watered down form. So I'm like, here I am.
That's crazy, because like it's like I had another guest a couple weeks back, and then she has an open relationship.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And an open marriage, and then also like also she's bisexual.
Gotcha.
And then
Totally.
she was saying that like when she was dating with that fiance, the husband, and then like husband is the one say, hey, you like girls.
Gotcha.
And then,
she
like,
didn't even know, or
I mean, she
maybe knew
deep down, but like she didn't really like came out or whatever.
That has to be like every person I was with in the past was like, she's probably fruity, but I'm not gonna say anything.
But like then like after that, and then like they're like, well, you're gonna be happy with everybody else, and then he's same bisexual as well.
Oh, cool, nice.
So like they work things together.
Yeah.
Well, they still together like a strong 10 years or whatever, but they have their own thing going on, whatever. So like I think like I thought that was interesting, because like that life has, and then like what you're telling me is totally different.
They're like, that could never happen. And this is in like small town southern Oklahoma, where they would be appalled at someone with an open relationship in the first place. That's just like way beyond their binary of thinking. But I feel like that's so cool. Like, I love when queer couples can find relationships that work for them, because it's already like we've had to face this so much with planning a wedding. And it's like, when you're already reinventing the wheel, like changing so many traditions or whatever, why stop there? Like, what's going to make you, like, once you realize, like, after coming out, especially, like, I've already quote unquote ruined my reputation. So what more can stop me from just being happy and like.
What do you mean ruin the reputation?
I think in a small town, like that was what
Are
I
you
was
still
always
live
worried
there,
about.
or?
No, well, so my family is still there.
Oh, okay.
My parents and then my little sister is in the metro as well, but we still visit like all the time.
Yeah.
And it's still like small town gossip because my parents are still, for whatever reason, super involved with like the community and just like chit chat in general. And it's so strange to hear like what people do and don't make a big deal out of. And I think it's like, it's all dependent on who you are, first of all, and then like what you did, which
Like they tell you stuff, or like they
oh, totally.
like look at you different, or they send you a message, or
Definitely just like more subtle stuff, I would say. Like I feel like I get the occasional unfriending on Facebook, which I'm like, please do. I hate Facebook.
I'm friending on Facebook.
Yes. Oh my, that's so random. But yeah, just the general like conversation and like seeing the things that other people post where I'm like, oh, you want me to die. Like just for being. So it's really,
they tell you that?
Not literally, just like sharing posts that are like, gay people shouldn't exist. Share if you agree. And I'm like, what? Why are we doing this on Facebook?
People still say that?
Baby boomers still say
okay.
that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for the most part, I'm sure there's some younger people, but hopefully I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy. So like, I'm curious. So like, you're saying like queer couple, right?
Yeah.
Is that like, I'm just trying to like educate myself right now.
Sure, yeah.
Is that like a man, like a gay, right? Couple, is that gay couple or queer couple?
I think that anything, so it's interesting because like some people would probably have a different definition, so it may differ by who you ask, but I feel like I use queer as like an umbrella term of like anyone, anywhere in the LGBTQ alphabet of like any of those things. So just like anyone that's not straight, I guess, essentially. So like since they're both bi, like you said, is that what you said? The guy and the girl before that are in the open marriage? Yeah. I just like, I'm like, okay, yeah. So they're both the B, so that makes them queer. Like, but I feel like some people don't like that term used for them specifically. Like some people still have like, I guess, a flinchiness with like it being a derogatory term. I think definitely Gen Z is more like using it as a factual, like using it to describe like anyone in the LGBTQ community. Like queer people in general are like a group or like a marginalized group or like, I don't know. I feel like it's just a group term.
Okay, makes sense. But like honestly, like from people who are not in that community, and if I say, oh, you, so like for example, if you have your fiance here,
totally,
and then say, this, I would just probably represent you guys, say, hey, this couple, right?
Sure.
I'm not gonna say this queer couple.
Right. See,
right?
that's the thing too, where it's like you can almost like overdo the allyship by being like, they're so gay and LGBTQ. I love them. Where it's like, if it were a interracial couple or like two black people, you wouldn't be like this black couple,
right.
Because it's like, it's not important, or it shouldn't be important, but it's still like, I guess it's true. So you could say that, but yeah, like it's
so you
definitely
don't
just
say
like,
it, right?
Probably not, unless we're like, I mean, trying to make a point. So like we've been inquiring with a lot of wedding vendors and stuff lately, and she has a masculine name, so her name is Dylan, and we have to literally clarify in every email like Dylan and Brynlee, this is 2 women, she, her, queer couple, because if not, we've been addressed as like him and her, and you know, Dylan has been like called yes sir like her whole life just because of the name and people reading that and assuming. So it's just really funny to kind of like rewrite that before we, I don't know, have a chance to encounter awkwardness.
Yeah.
And we just like set it out there to be like, hey, and by the way, we're queer, so don't say anything weird.
So you were talking about that before the podcast starts, and then you are thinking about taking her name, right? Like
so
last name?
It's interesting. We had thrown a lot of things around because we both individually like the way our names sound with our last name, but together they are so silly. Her last name is Fix, and my last name is Handy. And Fix Handy or Handy Fix, like that is just absurd. So we thought more and more about it, and we feel like when we are like doing so much trauma work in our personal time and like working on our mental health, and then like really building this relationship from the ground up with nothing but like self-taught relationship knowledge, we decided that we are gonna like create a new last name and both take that together. And yeah, so we kind of like are starting our own new line of like lineage or like a family line. So that's exciting.
Is that kind of like I guess tradition? Is it kind of like happen often?
No, I mean, maybe it definitely happens more in the gay community for sure. I'm assuming, at least we've only seen like a handful of times this like happening, and we're like, okay, well, we know we are allowed, so we're gonna do it. But I think maybe it'll become more popular as time goes on, because I know like younger generations are really like kind of pushing the boundaries on like traditions in every aspect, but definitely weddings and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like it could be something we see more, but who knows? Maybe we're trendsetters.
What's that called? Like is that brides or what's that, groomsmen, right?
Bridesmaids or groomsmen. Yeah.
Like it would be both would be bridesmaids.
So yes, we would. I was going to say we're definitely having kind of like a mixed group of people. And since both of our friend groups overlap so much, we're just doing like one wedding party instead of like bridesmaids or her bridesmaids or my bridesmaids, or like, you know, gendering any of it. We're just like, we have a whole wedding party, and we don't really even know if they're gonna like do a lot of the traditional like bridesmaid, you know, responsibilities, or like stand up there with flowers, because I feel like that's a little formal for us. But we'll see like how it ends up you know, working out with incorporating them into the wedding. But
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
Yeah, you were saying that, like, you know, like you guys are working on the mental health and the mental stuff. Like, what do you guys do?
So Dylan actually got me into therapy, which is like my biggest accomplishment to date. I just finished, or not finished. I'm still in therapy, but I just completed my first year of therapy, and I was just like, that's such a big milestone for something I used to be like weirdly afraid of.
Yeah.
So I definitely owe that to her. She gave me my therapist recommendation, and that was slay. And then we do like almost like premarital, like couple sessions every now and again with both of our personal therapists, who are actually like
same person.
They're two different people, but they work together all the time. They're kind of like friends. So we have like a big group session, like a family meeting. It's so funny. But they're always like, why are you guys here? Like, what are you even working on? It's all so great. Like, y'all are like some of the healthiest people we see. And I'm like, that's because we come here and because we make it a priority. So definitely did not or would not have come naturally.
Yeah, what was like a therapy before you take therapy for you? Like, were you like just not the believer, or like you didn't want to deal with it, or?
I was so scared of it. Like, I felt like I was going to get into therapy and they were going to be like, sorry, you're too damaged. There's nothing we can do. Best I can do is a lollipop and a sticker. Like, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you talked about that in therapy, probably.
Yes, absolutely. She was like, why are you sobbing? It's your first session. I asked you to introduce yourself. And I'm like, I've literally just worked this up to be such an ordeal in my mind. And I think growing up, because my family didn't have a lot of like knowledge about what that is, or like the importance of mental health at all, I think definitely a generational thing. But it was almost used as kind of like a threat. Sounds like a really ominous word, but just like if you don't get it together, you're gonna need therapy, or like almost like it's for people with something wrong with them, versus like just getting help with like your day-to-day life, or like, I don't know. Therapy can be a lot of things for a lot of people.
Do you think therapy is like, I mean, like, honestly, like, before I took the therapy, I was kind of like, like, you know, like, I was like, well, therapy is just for the weak.
Yeah.
And also, like, I thought about, like, depressions and anxiety will never happen to me and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, it comes, you know, wait a little bit, you know, it will come to you. And then I started going to a therapy. And, I mean, you found your therapy, the first one?
Pretty close. I reached out to a few people, but I never actually got into a session with them because of like their bio or something being like slightly not in the criteria that I had set out. But yeah, pretty much.
I walked out multiple times.
That's so
to
nice.
therapy. Like, it's like I didn't understand what they're saying, but also like they put me into like box, like they had like a chart of like 1 through 6 or whatever. Oh, you react this way because you're 5 or 6 or whatever.
Totally.
And then I just hated that they put me in the box. I'm like, I'm just an individual. And then I found my therapist, thank God, you know. And then like I go see her all the time. But like yeah, I mean, like, realizing that, I think that, you know, any person, either generation or even gender or whatever, I think people go through so much shit in life. And then like, also, like, if you're going to therapy, even like you're good, I think I never been to a therapy like when I'm good, but I probably should do that. But I don't know, like, you've been going to a therapy a long time, right? But but like, let's say, but do you go to therapy even you're in good mental stage?
So I actually just skipped therapy this last week for the first time because I was having such a good week. I texted her. It's kind of different because I started out doing traditional talk therapy, and then about halfway or 3/4 of the way through, I transitioned into EmDR therapy.
What's that?
It's called, or it stands for, I think, eye movement desensitization. I don't remember what the R stands for. Something like that. But it's about like maybe like reprocessing would be the R. It's about reprocessing trauma, and it's really like simple. It has to do with like bilateral stimulation and like, I don't even know, like little hacks in your brain and your nervous system, but it kind of like over time teaches you to be less reactive to your triggers, like in general.
But you still talk to therapists?
Yes. Okay. So I would kind of like
guided meditation?
Alternate. Kind of, yeah. It's a little bit more talking through it, but it is very much like we say a few words and then sit with it for a really long time, and then, you know, it's really interesting. But so I think doing that a little bit more heavy in the last 6 months was like, I would never miss therapy. Like, we are not pushing it off. We're not missing it. I'm every 2 weeks on the dot. And then I just finished up like a trauma milestone. So I worked through one singular trauma, which was great, which took a really long time. And so these last like 2 sessions have been back to normal talk therapy again. And so I was like, well, I don't have anything this week. Sorry, girl. And she was like, okay, well, we'll chat soon. And I was like, wow, that felt so adult and so like fancy. Like, but it's definitely, I think people should definitely still go if they feel like they can while they're in good health or when they're feeling good, just because you can still accomplish stuff. But I feel like after a certain point in therapy, you kind of need it a little less, because my therapist is always like telling me like the goal is for you to eventually be your own therapist or be able to, because nobody wants to pay for therapy forever, but like you definitely need those tools forever. And so like eventually being your own therapist and like being able to completely self-soothe, which I'm like, that would be nice. We're on the road.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, like, congratulations finishing those like the things
Thank
in
you.
there. I think it's awesome. I think like my take on therapy is kind of a little bit different because of
Totally.
I think sometimes like you talk to there's like your friend, or like I have a friend and then my girlfriend and then my family, and
Totally.
then I talk to them like my problems or my accomplishments and all that kind of stuff, but they're not like they can't be everything for me.
Right.
And then my therapist like has like my purpose of like, hey, I gotta talk about all this
Yes,
stuff.
I'm here to trauma dump.
But also like I need I think I value all my people around me, but like this therapist is like don't know my life of like not my friend, not
Sure.
my family. I don't really know too much about her, but like they just give me I guess expert opinion,
Yeah.
expert like a coping skills and those kind of stuff, and then like they just ask you tough questions, and then like, oh, I have to deal with this,
Yes.
and then like, okay, more, because like I'm like being trained to like don't show the feelings and all that kind of stuff, trying to
Totally.
be strong, and then get diving into it. I don't know. Hopefully, it will end soon. But like, I can't
Fingers
see like I guess end route. But if I go talk to her rest of my life, I don't think it's gonna be a bad thing for
Sure.
me.
Not at
I don't
all.
know, but maybe bad thing.
Some people, I mean, like, I think it's so beneficial, and it's probably really optimistic of me to think I could get off of therapy. Because, like, thinking back now, I'm like, every one of the mental diagnoses I have are on the list for like suggested lifetime talk therapy. So I probably should not quit therapy ever. But I feel like that's so not normalized enough, because so what if you like some people need a heart medication their entire life, like from birth to death. So it's, I don't see it as being like any different, honestly.
Yeah, but maybe like what you're doing is probably most healthy version because of that, because you say maybe I can go back, maybe like I need to skip, like it's kind of like if you're on medication, right? And then
Sure.
like you have to be on the medication, and if you're off and then like off and then you can't be on the medication.
Yes.
But if you have a choice, and then if you have a like you can choose like if you go, if you don't, and then like that's your
Totally.
totally control. So maybe that's like a highest form of like mental health maybe.
Yeah, my OCD's probably loving that. They're like, I can control when I do and don't heal. This is
Yeah,
hilarious.
so maybe that's awesome. But what else do you guys do to like you said like you do a lot of work?
Yeah, we love, like, we have this little journal, and it's got a lot of like writing prompts, but we just like do them out loud with each other, and we always talk about like, I don't know, how to improve our relationship, like probably every other day, which maybe not is like too much, because I feel like you can never be too, clued in on your own
Yeah,
relationship. But
yeah.
we're always like checking in and being like, okay, so what could we work on? What went well this week? What can we do better next week? Like,
Yeah.
I'm needing more of this from you, like moving forward, because, like my job is stressing me out, or I think it's really cool that this is the first relationship that I've ever had like this, so it's cool to have like super open communication about like everything.
Yeah, what is like best like a best thing you guys talked about? Like, can you kind of tell me a example story of like was good for that like a relationship?
Yeah, I think So this wasn't necessarily one conversation, but when we went through the most growth when we first moved in together. It was like growing pains every day, and it was like, I mean, on the surface, like if you look at it on paper and take any of my like past memories about those emotions away, like we were fine, like everything was going fine, nothing was that dramatic, but it was like the stress of combining both of our lives and like both of us having really pretty strong individual styles and then kind of combining that into one space under one roof, kind of compromising into each other's like everyday habits and like routines and stuff.
Maybe you have too many thrift store
Yes,
clothes.
that's what she's always saying. That's like the ongoing joke is like, what did you bring home this time? I'm like bringing 6 bags on each arm. And I'm like, I went to the bins today. That's so funny. But yeah, like it was a big transition because I am a little bit of a maximalist and maybe borderline hoarder, and she is minimalist queen. Like she is like, it will be clean before we go to bed every night. We will keep it clean, which I love. It has like de-stressed my life so much, and like I literally am so much happier living in a environmentally like
How do you guys live together if you're a maximalist? She's a minimalist.
a healthy blend of me getting everything that I want to get and her getting the say in where we put it. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
That's good. That's good.
Totally.
That makes sense to me. I think that it's funny, right? Because like whenever you guys live together and then whenever you start living people, it's just like there's a bunch of different things, you know?
Yes. So many things we never thought we needed to discuss before then.
So when you journal, do you read back what you wrote?
We do that night, but we haven't really read back through like past ones. I wonder if we could like make a date night of it like right before our wedding or something and like do it all at once, or like something cheesy, because obviously funny. I can't make it a normal thing. Like
I remember like the reason I started journaling was I have my sister. She's 4 years younger than me, and then like I was dating a girl at the time, and then I broke up with her, and then she told me, she's like, you got to write a letter to yourself.
Oh, I love that.
And then I was like, okay. And I did it. And then,
that's so funny.
You know, like I do go through a whole bunch of like, you know, typical, you know, after breakup or whatever. And then like a year and a half or whatever later, I called her and said, hey, I think I'm going to go back. And I'm going to like reach back out and see what happens. She's like, are you going to read that letter?
Oh.
I'm like, well, I would if I wrote one. You know?
Like, and that's why I didn't write one.
But I didn't write one, and then like I didn't read, and then I went back, and then we got back together, and then 6 months later, you know,
same thing
happened. So
why is it always at the 6 month mark?
I don't know.
It's like just enough time to like reveal yourself again.
I guess like I guess it wasn't meant to be, and then she's a great person.
Yeah.
And I still care about her, and but hopefully she will. You know, I wish her the best. Totally. But it didn't work out, and then I wrote the letter this time. You know.
Oh yeah.
So you know, I mean, I probably read it one couple of times or whatever, but I think it's been very, very helpful for me.
Yeah.
And then like these days I do journal regularly. I used to do that on like you know, I watched a YouTube video about like buy a thick ass like a journal book.
Yeah.
And then I was just, like writing down and like to write the journal, it's like takes so much energy. Also like it just my hands gets tired of the writing stuff, and I don't usually write in work and all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
So I guess those muscles been gone. and so I downloaded an app.
Oh, cool.
The like a daily journal or whatever.
Nice.
And then I do actually journal every day.
Nice.
Because on the phone, because it's super easy, you know?
Totally.
So I just like sitting in the patio or like just in the office chair or whatever. I'm just looks like working or whatever. So
Yeah. Does it send you like a notification to be like, do your journal today if you
no.
forget or anything? Okay, I need something like that because I
Yeah.
will forget, but
I
I'm sure I
probably
can set a timer or
Yeah,
reminder.
probably reminder or like probably app does do that, you know. Mine, I just put it on the home page, so like every time I open
See
the
it.
phone, like I see it. So that's kind of what I do. But yeah, it's been helping me just put it down the thoughts to the paper, looking at what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm just crazy thinking about this way. But I think that helps me. But um, every podcast, whenever like a finishing segment, I do ask two questions that, you know, but lead up to that question
Mm-hmm.
that 2018, which will be 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing in 2018 in
Oh,
August?
in August, I was still fighting the good fight with that ex and his parents, trying to convince them that I did not like
What?
women under any circumstances. That is not me. I'm not that girl. And here I am, engaged to a woman.
What advice would you give it to yourself
Oh,
5 years ago?
I would say trust your gut instinct and get the heck out of there before we have to beat the dead horse and just drag it all through the mud. Like, save the time, trust your gut, and leave.
Do you think that advice is that she needed to hear at the time?
Oh, yeah. Especially the trust your gut part, because up until that point, I really hadn't made a lot of like big life decisions for myself. And
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't have much of a sense of like a gut feeling at that time. I hadn't like exercised that muscle in so long. I didn't feel like I had one. And I was like so lost in that situation that I was like, how do I get out? Like, that's how I literally had to turn to my parents, which I'm like, that's how you know I was desperate. But I was like, how do I handle this? Like, what do I do? Because I had no sense of like gut instinct or like doing what was right for me.
Yeah.
And that is like the main message I needed at that time for
Love
sure.
that. Yeah. What would you think that 5 years ago yourself would have said that to advice?
To me now.
Yeah. No, like I mean, I kind of like.
Oh, responding to that advice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I would probably be too lost to even know quite what that meant or felt like at that time, because it took so much like exercising that muscle again to like bring that back. But I think she would probably be like, okay, this is at least a sign to leave and I'll figure out the rest later.
Yeah.
Totally.
And it seems like you did a lot of work and to get, you know, I think that's awesome.
Weird. It feels like it's happened really fast, which is cool, but also it's been a long time coming too. So
Yeah.
my whole life has led up to the change that has happened in the last 2 years.
How do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, that's a good question. Hopefully, doing even more of what I love. I feel like I'm really dipping my toes into it this year, especially. Like, I've gotten so many crazy, cool opportunities that I would never, the girl 5 years ago would never have had the courage to even attempt or like apply to or try for. And just like that growth alone, I feel like says so much about where I am now, because like I feel like I'm not even the same person. Like it's like the best and the wildest thing to like look back on.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, like it's just
you.
like probably 5 years ago, probably like we would probably never met and do a podcast or whatever.
No, seriously. My fiance and I talk about that all the time. Like if she and I had never both changed individually in the ways that we did, our paths never would have crossed. Like we are nothing alike. We went to opposite colleges. She's from Stillwater. Like we were nowhere near the same like personality type. And it's like, I am so thankful I didn't miss the opportunity to be myself and live the life that I feel like I was supposed to live, because I got to meet her. I got to, do all these fun things. And it's like the best timeline is the one that you are living in. And I'm like, I love that saying.
That's awesome. I mean, you never know what's bad or what's good and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, It's awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover today, or like you wanted to ask question or
This was
talk about?
great. I feel like my question for you would be, how has podcasting been for you, and like how long have you kind of done this so far?
So this podcast has been, I think this is episode, what is it, 45?
Yeah, sounds right.
45. So I started, I think, about 43 weeks ago.
Cool. Yeah.
I have yet to miss a week.
That's awesome.
I've been, whenever I started podcast, I thought about like, I do have a YouTube channel. So like, I was like, well, podcast would be like consistent and easy, and it would be a good content. And I'm like, I have a fitness channel and all that stuff. So while I was doing podcasts, like episode 10 or something like that, and then I start, like, people start reaching out to me. People start people I have never met came on, like you.
Yeah.
And then like chit chat, also like a people who I have known them for like over 10 years come to a podcast table, this table, and then we talk for like an hour without the phone, without
Yeah.
first a couple episodes we had a beer together drinking, but like now I don't even have alcohol.
Yeah.
But I just talk, chit chat, and catch up, and then like I get to learn multiple different people. Maybe I should focus on a couple subjects to talk about. But now like I'm just reaching out to people like who interest me, and then who I want to talk to, and then
cool.
I just have like a different people's perspective, and then learning about it. I get it. My goal is to inspire and then learn and then be happy. I wanted to do that to people, but like this one gives me the inspiration. I learn stuff, and then I'm happy to talk to a lot of people. And then like, because me and my girlfriend was talking about it last night, sometimes whenever you become older, like some people say you gotta get married, you have kids, and house and all that kind of stuff, right? Like you stay in your job and stay in your lane. That's normal if you're like talking to people that who are around you think the same. And then like she was meeting her friend, and her friend is like a very like open-minded. She's like still go getter, getting career, like I don't have to get married like certain age and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. And then
I
like
love that.
getting better, right? Like I do think the same way, because like I'm from Japan, and then like my family, all that kind of stuff. People was talking to me about like, yeah, like I'm not gonna be video maker, filmmaker, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Just be like a doctor or whatever,
Yes.
right? And then like they're going to United States, and I mean like my mom supported me, but most people, my grandma did, and then most people were like kind of look at me as like, oh, Yosuke have a crazy idea, and then he's probably gonna come back.
Yeah.
But look at me now; it's like a 12 years later. I'm still here and doing
Yeah.
stuff, and then yeah. So I think that this podcast has been, long story short, I guess. It's been blessing to like just talk to a bunch of people, and then getting a different uh, perspective in a deeper level.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a good exercise for me, and I hope the audience enjoy the whole variety of thought process. I had a very conservative guys, businessman. Probably they
saw that one.
those
Yes.
kind of people is probably been on here, and then very opposite of that.
Totally.
And then fitness people, not fitness people, mental health, crazy people, musicians or whatever. Like I have
I'm crazy people.
no, it's just like people are people in a unique way, and
Totally.
there's not no right or wrong. And then yeah, we get to talk about it with respectfully, but like honestly, I mean, it's been a quiet journey, and I would, kind of like a therapy session.
Yeah.
But also like I do love I don't think I will ever want to stop.
Yeah.
It's-
That's
it's
so cool.
it's kind of cool, yeah.
That's awesome.
But thanks for asking me that.
Of course.
Yeah, and then how can people find you and support you, what you do?
Of course. Follow my socials at Brynlee Handy. My name is kind of hard to spell, so it's BrynleeHandy. But yeah, and my TikTok is actually being Brynlee. So the username Brynlee Handy was taken, even though I did try to report the account multiple times and get it taken down. They won't give
Maybe
it to
other
me.
people, the audience can help them out.
I know. I'm like, if you see this, report that account on TikTok. There's no posts on it, no pictures, and some of the followers on it are people that I know, so they think it's me, obviously. Like, it's people from my hometown that's super small, so I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no reason. But yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
This has
thank
been
you
so
for coming.
fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching this episode. If you guys are watching YouTube, let us know what you thought about this episode, and then hit the like button, and then that will help me and then help this episode to get more eyeballs and ears. And then a lot of maybe this kind of conversation, maybe some people are in from small town and maybe struggling to do what you did, or like be yourself and all kinds of stuff. And then I would love to them to hear this story and then get inspired and do something. I think that'd be cool. So I appreciate if you guys hit the like button, and then if you guys are listening to podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. I don't know, is anybody listening to iTunes anymore? Do you?
No, like
But,
Team Spotify.
but if you're listening to Spotify, give us a 5-star. It's gonna do the same things for the algorithm, so that more people can listen to it. So, well, thank you guys for watching. See you guys next Friday. Peace.